Yeah, we're live. It is 7:01. Just missed it. It's okay. Taking care of Milo. Just got back for a walk with the puppies. It was awesome. Tonight, 7 o'clock. It's nighttime. It's so light out today. It's pretty nice though. I really like it. I wish it would change its mind and stop being cold and start being hot. I'm ready. I'm ready for the summer. But tonight we're gonna talk about torque. We're gonna talk about torque production. I always get so much response whenever I do these kinds of stories. So I'll get by now everybody's kind of spoiled. So we do a camshaft upgrade on an LS, like you put a 230-ish cam in there. You could get 75, 80, sometimes even 100 horsepower, depending on what you're starting with and what the thing is that you're adding the camshaft to. Not unusual. 100 horsepower gain is certainly possible from a camshaft, as long as the other players are in place. And then getting, like in the video that I put up recently, where we did the Chupacabra and the Truck Norris and the Cam Motion, the little hot rod, and the Torquinator. Everybody's got names. The smaller cams, we did those and showed what those can do because, you want more low speed power. But here's the thing. There are a couple things I want to talk about tonight. One is there is a general misconception. There's always going to be complaining. We know that. If I do a cam where it makes a lot of power, people want to talk about torque. If I do a cam where they make a lot of torque, people just want to talk about power. It's, there's always going to be that guy or those guys. Usually there's more than one. But there is a general misunderstanding in the industry among the average guy. And what he thinks is the thing is that when we show these cam tests, like, you could put almost anything in. Put even take the LM7 cam, put an LS3 cam in, you get 30 or 40 horsepower. It's a lot. Same thing with an LS9, all those. You can get big power gains. You usually trade with any of the stock cams. Some of the aftermarket cams are better, but you get such big gains that people are like accustomed to it. So they're like, oh yeah, huge gains. That's great. What I want though, and what they think actually exists, is a cam that will do that, but down low. So I don't want the high RPM cam. I don't care about 6,500 or 7,000. I care about stuff that's the RPM range that I use in my truck, which some of them incorrectly think that 1,800 is an RPM range that they use at full throttle. They don't. But let's say 2,000, 2,500, 3,000, even up to 4,000. Because if you're towing something and you're going up a hill, and you drop down a gear, which on an automatic you would, and on a stick you would too, because if you don't, you need to learn about driving and gear ratios and not about camshafts. But that's a reasonable RPM. But also we want the stuff down low. So guys, and unfortunately they think that because those big gains are available up at the top of the RPM range where we get huge gains, they think that is also available down low. And so they think that, hey, if I put a torque cam, a truck cam, a truck Norris cam, a Chupacabra, whatever it is, whatever their fancy name is, some of the smaller crane cams, the direct fit cams that we were doing, the direct fit truck cams, whatever, with these smaller cams, RV cams, they think that is available down low. And I can tell you, I hate to be the one that tells them about Santa Claus and Easter Bunny and all that, but that's not true. That's not going to happen. There is nothing that's going to get you those kinds of gains in that RPM range from just a camshaft. It's not possible because a cam doesn't have control of what's going on down there. It's not dictating that. It is very much dictating what's going on at the top of the RPM range. The camshaft kind of dictates the personality, but the personality doesn't come into play at 2,000 RPM. What's affecting the personality down there at 2,000 RPM are things like not camshaft, displacement, compression, head flow, intake runner length, and not even head flow so much. Quite honestly, almost no matter what cylinder head we put on there at 2,000 RPM, if we had a truck intake manifold on there and that camshaft and that displacement and that compression, it probably wouldn't care about the head flow. Again, it's not coming into play yet because it's not utilizing what a ported head would have to offer. I would be surprised if we saw any gain at all from a head change. Maybe valve job stuff, maybe. Certainly compression though. Combustion chamber, yes. Maybe unshrouding a valve or something that could come into play at lower lifts or lower engine speeds or whatever. Maybe. Probably not. Yes, definitely runner length. Lots and lots of runner length at 2000 RPM could definitely show a power change. Compression will definitely show a power change. Displacement will be the biggest thing. And then obviously boost, if you wanted to go there and talk about boost. If you had 10 pounds of boost at 2000 RPM, you'd see a sizable change in power. You'd see about a 69 or 70% change in torque. It'd be a lot. So you could see that. That would be good. But you're not going to get that from a camshaft. And unfortunately, that disappoints a lot of people because it's me telling them that, look, that guy behind the curtain over there, he's just a guy. He's moving lots of like levers and arms and buttons and switches and stuff, but he's just a guy. And they don't like that. And so when I asked the question in the video, I asked for people to make a comment. Well, what do you think is going to add power here? They're all saying the same kinds of things. Oh, well, if you tighten up the LSA, no, that you're not listening to the message at all. You're not listening to all of the testing. We ran stuff that had tight LSAs. The truck Norris cam has 107 LSA. It's not a tight LSA. The camshaft does not have very much effect at 2000 RPM at wide open throttle. It just doesn't. I remember talking to my buddy Jimmy from HP, talked about him a lot. He's a cool cat. But they were doing, I think, big block Ford industrial motors, and they were doing them for irrigation pumps or something. And so that they were running them at 1800 or 2000 RPM. And they were trying to figure out what the best cam timing was. Well, they tried all kinds of stuff, and they were shifting it by a couple foot-pounds here and there. So it's not very much. And that's exactly what I saw when I did this. I tried cams ranging from 100 and I don't think I went any smaller than the stock one, 190. But since we were able to get a little bit more torque from bigger cams in stock, I don't know that smaller ones would do very much. And at 2000 RPM, we're talking about a major swing of 3 foot-pounds or something. It's not very much. So the cam timing really doesn't do that. Like in the solid RPM range, where you're using it for acceleration and stuff, like from above 3000 up to 6000 or 6500, we can get solid gains. Like the truck Norris cam is a great cam in that range. At 2000 RPM, it's not the ideal cam. Certainly not on a 4.8. But on a 5.3, it's much better. On a 6.0, it's even better, I think. But because you can use it more with a stock converter, and I think you could get away with a stock converter on a 5.3, although I think even with a truck Norris cam on a 5.3, it probably would be happier with a higher than stock stall converter. And that's my recommendation to these guys, rather than trying to figure out some kind of magic cam timing. Again, they all come back to, oh, you got to advance the cam. No, that's not. I know that the general consensus out there in internet land is if you advance the cam, you pick up a bunch of low speed power. Yes and no. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes it doesn't do anything. Sometimes it might help. Sometimes it might help at 3000, but not help at 2000, which is what's probably going to be the case. Simply advancing the cam doesn't guarantee more low speed power. What if the cam was already advanced? What if it was already too small? What if it was already too big? What if it was already exactly what you want? You don't know that, and just advance doesn't equal anything. Advance equals another spot where you can test and find out what happens, but it may or may not do anything. Just like LSA. Oh, you tighten up the LSA and it's going to gain a bunch of torque. No, it doesn't. It can do that in some RPM range, but it's not going to do it at 2000 RPM because, again, the cams have very little effect there. And even anywhere near the factory runner length is having almost no effect there. We see that a lot. Like at 2000 RPM, if you load the motor with a short runner manifold and a long runner manifold, not a lot of difference. In fact, if you were working on the sine wave there, it might be that you could get a short runner manifold that might be a little bit better there in one spot if you had the right upper, portion of the curve there. That might be possible. But what you want is a gigantic, like long one, like a 20-inch or a 30 or 40 or 50-inch runner, like, and you can make the power depending on what the displacement is. But then you could make the thing, add more power there. Displacement, obviously, if you go from a 5.3 to a 383 or a 408 or a 500-inch motor, like we saw with the 8.1, there's a million foot-pounds of torque to be had. It's just displacement. It's bigger. It grabs more air in. It makes more power. Combine that with a long runner manifold, a decent camshaft, and away you go. And you can make lots of low-speed power. That works really well. Obviously, adding boost there, but camshafts, not so much. In fact, I would love to see somebody now, and that includes variable cam timing. You can advance and retard the cam all that you want, but it's going to be very little. It's going to make very little difference down at 2,000 RPM. In fact, I would like somebody to show me that I'm wrong. I would love that. I would love somebody to say, hey, look, Richard, here is a 5.3 cam. If you compare it to a stock, I think we compared this to the stock, both to the L33 cam and to the LM7 cam. If you compare to that cam, we're going to pick up 50 foot-pounds at 2,000 RPM. I would love to see that, but I won't because I don't think it's possible. But I would love to see it. But it's interesting that I got all the arguments and stuff. So. Yeah. And advancing the cam timing increased torque production at 2,000 RPM. Let's see. Let's see what's going on. Jay, what's going on? Wants your truck torque. I like that. They do need lots of torque. They also have lots of gear multiplication in their transmissions. Positive displacement supercharger. And I would argue that a positive displacement supercharger and long runner intakes. How can I get a hold of you? You're here. Ask a question. If you have a question, ask. That's why we're here. There's lots of sharp guys here and me. Randy, I see. I did not see any text or information or anything from you on Facebook. What I did was went in and searched your name. And when I did a search for your name, then something came up. And so then I was able to respond to your photos. If long runner this is interesting. If long runners help the low end torque, they do. And in every case, they do. Have you been able to measure what, if anything, valley mount water to air intercoolers do to runner length and torque production? They don't do anything to runner length. They have no effect on that at all. All they do is charge cooling. The runner length in the ones that have sandwiched air to water intercoolers in them are just that. It's just a brick in between the inlet side and the discharge side, and the manifold underneath that. Like if the one that they use a lot on LS motors is the sandwich one that they would use between a high ram. Well, the runner length and the high ram is still the same. It doesn't change with an air to water intercooler with one there or not there. It doesn't matter. The runner length is the runner length that ends in the common plenum below, in this case, below the intercooler. Stroke or crank, roots blower, screw compressor, but not the cam. There's lots of big block guys here. What's the best power for cam? Best cam for power in a small block Ford. What are you trying to do with it? And you know it's going to be the 274 cam. Building a big block would have a few questions. Please ask away. I've built a few, and the guys in here have also built some. No, heavy Chevy. These turbines is the real deal. I have a crankshaft to camshaft correlation error on my L83. Now I need to pull the timing cover back off and make sure I install the phaser timed right and on the cam properly. That's important to see. Just make sure that the chain's installed properly. It has links on the chain. Now, Rich, you played golf and work today? I think the phaser failed. Did all the springs come out of it? No brakes. You're going to broadcast how smart you are? Let me know how that works out for you. I've tried for a lot of years, and so far no one's been impressed by my dissertation. The experiment intake should prove the point. We've run lots of intake manifolds with changes in runner length. That's why I make adjustable ones whenever I do it. I hate it when my phaser craps out and the Gorgon gets you. But some people might not know what that is. But James T. Kirk, well, James Tiberius will know who that is. It's all about area under the curve. And when a lot of cam dyno graphs start at 3000 or higher, it doesn't give you the full picture. I don't know what people mean by area under the curve. What is area under the curve? What curve are you talking about? And what is the area underneath? So when I supply a dyno graph, it's the whole curve. I've run motors down to 2000 RPM, but quite honestly, if you're at wide open throttle, you're not at wide open throttle at 2000 RPM. Because if you are, we've talked about this, you need to be in a different gear because you shouldn't be lugging a motor at 2000 RPM at wide open throttle. I know people want to see those dyno results, and I have supplied them, but quite honestly, in my opinion, they're a waste of time. The diesel has 25 plus 25 to 1 compression, a low RPM motor made for towing. Gotta love a big block Chevy. Honestly, if you're going to do towing and you want low speed torque, a turbo diesel is definitely the way to go. It's better than a gas motor for doing that sort of thing. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about guys who have 4.8s and 5.3s, and I guess to some extent 6.0s, and they all want more low speed power. And the way to go about it is not camshaft related. What small block Ford link bar hydraulic roller lift you would recommend? The only ones I've ever used are, I think, Isky and Comp, and both of them worked fine for us. Turbo Sentra, I don't like the sound of that. The central oil problem fixed itself. I don't know what it was, but it's not losing pressure anymore. I would want to know what that is. Let's see. Scrolling back. I think I scrolled too far forward. Oh, there we go. Fix itself. On second thought, it does. If they're loading it from 3500, it probably doesn't make power at 2000. That's actually not accurate. Junkyard LS, when you get a max one out of the 4-bar. What is the best additive to clean the engine oiling system for said junkyard motor that is currently running? I've never tried Seafoam. Some guys have talked about it. Yugo and an LS is a perfect marriage. Just put a 4,500, 4,750 or 400 stroke in LS. That will add torque. You need to get the Holly April Fool's runner. Yeah, the Skyram thing. I have the dyno results from that. Scott, what question can nobody answer? I don't know what question you're saying that people can't answer. Is this a were you listening question? Well, brakes. I mean, come on. Brakes. You need to worry if I ask you to drink Kool-Aid, then that would be bad. Unless it's purple, then that's really good stuff. If you're going that far to adjust cam timing to gain torque at 2000 RPM, why wouldn't you change gearing at that point? To me, I think it's the KISS method. I agree. I mean, I think a lot of guys are more worried about changing a converter than they are about changing cams for some reason. Finish your Buick 455. I do want to do that. I actually was looking into that today on the specs that I need to make it a stage 1. John, so you advanced your cam in your 2.34 cylinder, and it did you have dyno results to show that it did that? And I'm not saying that advancing cams can't. In fact, in my discussion, I specifically said that advancing the cam can add power. It can also not add power. It can also make the power stay the same. It can lose power. It can do all of those things. You just don't know because you don't know what the cams you have, what they will respond to. My point was it's just not a universal thing, but people seem to attribute that to being a universal thing. Aaron, advancing the cam will also affect piston valve clearance. That's right. The intake cam particularly. I'm having a problem with my tune right now. When I go to wide open throttle, it gets a little bit lean. You should be able to add wide open throttle fuel. Mike, having 2400 stall converters, that should be not a problem at all. I don't even think you're not gonna be concerned at all about heat in that with that, even with the 2400. Reloading, I used to believe that small cams were what I needed for low end power. Well, they will be better than bigger cams, but again, you're not going to get, if you have a stock cam, you're not going to get a big gain at 2000 RPM from another cam. I also thought single pattern cams, I would agree with that. A single pattern cam traditionally can be better than a dual pattern cam for low speed power sometimes. Can you put 4V heads on 2V block? They will definitely bolt on. I don't know about hooking all the chains and tensioners and those bolts up though. GTA Nation, a Magnuson with 799 heads, 5.3, 11 PSI should be 500 wheel horsepower. Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. I think my cam phaser is stuck. Todd's back. I'm still scrolling back. I must have scrolled past all this. Let's see. No single overhead cam with a B cam. No single overhead with a B cam. Volvo was weird names for cams, but it's got a bit more lift and LSA than the factory cam. 6-liter L92 Allison 410 geared mini school buses. Yeah, it would probably need some RPM for that. What's that bus weigh? Do you know? What about 6-inch rods and an LT1 350? Yes, if they connect the piston to the crankshaft, they'll work just fine. Otherwise, they're not going to do anything. Guys will argue with me about that, but until somebody shows me a test where it did that, where it did something else. GTA Nation, will adding a blower and a cam make more power? Yes, it would definitely will. Probably going to need more than 42-pound injectors, though. I do have an ISKI cam. Made the mistake and got Chinese link bars. The ISKI lifters are some of the best. Daniel, I'm going to go 4.8 with marine exhaust manifolds. I have a junkyard van motor with 300,000 miles on it. I don't know what the marine manifolds look like. I don't know that I've ever seen them. Yeah, Utah nitrous can give you torque at 2,000. Wouldn't a cam with a narrow LSA installed help torque production down low? I don't know. What cam are you talking about? And what application are you talking about? It's not a universal thing. A tighter LSA doesn't always mean more low speed power. Just like advancing the cam doesn't always mean more low speed power. What if it's already advanced? What if it's too far advanced? How much torque would a 25 shot of nitrous activated when you hit the throttle bike start to open? I one of the times that we were running at West Tech, one of the guys hit the nitrous button on the load, and we immediately released it. It made power all the way through the curve. I don't recommend it. What about the cross ram on the 5.3? Yeah, intake runner length can definitely have an effect on low speed power. Todd, welcome back. I'm late to the party. Anybody ask about the added heat? A higher stall speed converter can add heat. Does lockup still work? Yeah, not if you're not going to change the as long as you install a lockup converter. And you're not talking about making it a 5,000 RPM stall. You're talking about going from an 1,800 to a 23 or 2,400 or something in the case of these smaller cams. My truck is a manual with gear ratios that are far apart. Downshifts can increase RPM quite a bit. I like to lug it through town. Power down low is nice to have. It is, but that's all part throttle power, though. What I'm talking about is guys wanting a wide open throttle power number at 2,000 RPM. It's not, like I said, that's not where you're racing. Purple Kool-Aid is the best. I never advance the cam timing after being set, but I do know I get a lot of additional torque by advancing the ignition timing. Yes, if you don't have enough timing and you add timing and it wants more timing, it will definitely pep right up. .8 van motor, marine conversion, what brain computer, and what changes to help torque with the stock intake. I don't think you're going to be able to do that. The marine exhaust is going to be wet. It's going to hurt low speed power because it doesn't have a bunch of primary length like the header does. There's no intake manifold that you can put on there that's going to make more low speed power than that. And honestly, I don't think that there's a camshaft that's going to help you make more low speed power than the cam that's already in there. Grape drink. Yeah, no, it's not juice. It's not fruit juice. I'd like to see a constant torque reading at part throttle, say 40% between two different cams and various changes in cam timing. Essentially a dyno test to simulate towing up a grade. So you think your torque output is constant going up the grade? And if you are at RPM, I would bet that the part throttle torque is going to be better with the cam that has more full throttle torque. Yes, you can't always advance or retard the cam, expect it to change power. Yeah, like I said, you don't know what you're starting with. Where are we starting with? That's like people telling me that you can run, oh, the ring gap is fine. It has lots of miles on it. It's already changed. Like, okay, well, what is the ring gap? Tell me what it is. Oh, I don't know. It's enough. Well, it might be enough. You don't know if it's enough because you don't know what it is. And it's the same thing with cam timing. There should be Dave Chappelle fans in here. Obviously, I'm one. Only practical way to match big Chevy Taurus with LS LGM as a power adder. Bear. Somebody's asking me a question here. I was scrolled past it. This thing just like it's got a hair trigger on it. What's your dream vehicle drive? Strictly for fun, occasional driving? McLaren F1. For the poll, cam timing changes may or may not help at any given RPM range. You need to test it. That's why you can't give a general yes or no to the question. I know, but that's what makes the question so good. 13 years old, I did my first engine swap on a 70 Buick 455. That's the engine that I want to build next after the LS6. What is the power limit of a 255 liter per hour pump? It's going to be not very much at under boost on an LT1. Four-wheel off-road, you didn't get any notification? I'm thinking my PSI 8 liter that I'm putting a 227 cam in might benefit from more from retarding the cam than advancing it. Probably don't need to worry about low speed power compared to the stock cam. Again, you don't know that cam. You don't know if that cam is going to respond to that. It's not a well. If I retard this, I'll get a little more on the top. If I advance, I'll get a little more on the bottom. What if you just lose everywhere? That's right, Butcher. Tell me to hit that like button. Come on, man. Burns, you want? Oh, never mind. Somebody wanted to know about a 255 pump. That's not going to support very much power. Anyone do two-stroke builds here? I did put a pipe on my GoPed. Does that count? And I have a couple of, or I've had a couple of a DT100 and a DT125. Just bought an LY553. What turbo cam and springs you suggest? I suggest a Truck Norris cam, and they'll have springs that go with it. Have you tested rec port heads on a small bore engine yet? No, I haven't, but I want to. £900, the minibus. Four-wheel off-road. I don't think advancing or retarding the cam is going to change the power at 2,000 RPM, if that's your question. I don't remember running the Johnson lifters. I think on the Ford stuff, I think all I've done are the comp and Iskies. Richard, what are you dynoing next? I don't know yet. Is there still a rod stuck in the wall at West Tech? From what? Tiny turbo enclosed blow off valve. Yeah. What about a cam with 400 lift? Then I lost it. What about a cam with 400 lift or so in short duration, say 150 thousandths at 50? Oh, 150 degrees of duration. I don't think that would do it. I don't think that that's going to make more torque there. In fact, I think it's going to make a lot less. What's a good converter for an LQ4 Truck Norris 4L80 comp? The stock one on a 6-liter. Picking camshafts, 383, 11-to-1 compression, Summit calculator, static dynamic, factory cam sizes, a lower compression or insulation of said cam. I don't know what you're asking there. You can use the calculator. Summit probably has one, and Wallace Racing has one. What is it you're trying to figure out? Why don't you just tell us what kind of power you make and what your heads are and your intake manifold are, and I could tell you what kind of camshaft, because I probably run something that makes the kind of power that you want to make out of your 383. So glad my workshop is warm enough to not have the heater going. Surprising how much more I get done, I accomplish with a small amount of time I have. Yeah, the warmer weather is going to help a lot. Magic valve events, that's right. I see a small dip in the throttle after it starts to misfire and pull timing. It shows a cam that had -8 or -10 overlap and done by 5800 or 6000 on my LS1. Those options seem to have great part throttle response, and early torque seemed the more overlap, the more torque later. Obviously, I'm going to disagree with that, as always. A stock cam has like -37 degrees. So the general statement that more overlap makes power at a higher engine speed, that's not true. What is acceptable ring gap for a turbo 6-liter that doesn't induce blow-by or crankcase pressure or a 408? We run 6.5 thousandths per inch of bore. Have you seen the T50? What is a T50? Is that the Torx bit? I can't wait to see the L78 dyno results. Yeah, I'm a little concerned about that, although I think I have a cure for it. The heads that came off of it are going to take longer than I thought. I thought that they were already picked up and that they were going to be repaired, and I just called the guy, and he said they haven't been by to get them yet. So I found another set of heads, which could be done in a couple of days, and I think I may put those on and put everything to stock, because Elgin has sent me the stock cams. So I have a stock cam, I have the stock rockers, I have the stock exhaust manifolds. Somebody's going to loan me the stock carburetor. And so I should have everything to run this thing in stock configuration. If anybody knows, who is the turbo vet guy that's here? Somebody might know. What I'd like to try to find out, ideally, which would be cool, is I'd like to find out the factory tune specs on this thing. Like, I'd like to find out what are the dwell specs on the distributor. What is the advance curve? What kind of plugs are they using? What's the plug gap? What is the jetting in the carburetor, the way that it comes from the factory? What is the factory lash? I'd like to find out all of that stuff so I could set it the way that they would have recommended, whether it was like that or not. I don't know, back in the day. And then adjust it the way that we adjust it, because we would definitely adjust timing and jetting, and then also lash probably. What cam would you recommend for a roller stock bottom end 351 Windsor 78, 75, 10 pounds, pump gas 93, low 9s, compression, street driven? I would recommend a small one. The trick flow stage 1 is fine. That 224, 232 cam is going to be fine for 10 pounds on 351. It's going to allow you to make, it would allow you to, that cam would allow you to top out that turbo if you wanted to. Piped GoPed, big bore kit, reed valves, and increased transfer and exhaust timing next. Nice. None of that is happening with mine. I don't even have that GoPed anymore. I have another one, but it's all stock. I didn't want it getting away from me. What's happening with your big block Chevy test engine? I think I just went over that. Let's see. Man, here we go. I'm putting E303 cam ported E7 heads on 302. I don't know if advancing the stock cam will help or not. I don't ever remember trying a stock cam. And the only way that I could answer that is if I actually did it. The 1.7 rockers will definitely help. Budworks, I think a 2800 or something stall on your combination there. Jeremy, Richard, if you want to make big two-stroke power modes, you're on one of the biggest two-stroke pages in the US. That's very cool. All we did was do a pipe. When I did the pipe on the GoPed, I did this back when I did it as a story for Splash Magazine when I was on staff at the magazines, and I wanted to do a dyno test of the GoPed, but we couldn't really do it on the on one of the rollers on the chassis dyno. So what I did was we ran it stock and we hooked an inductive pickup to it, and then I monitored maximum engine speed when we were in our speed tuck, because we didn't have a radar gun to see how fast it would go, but I was just monitoring maximum engine speed. This would log the maximum engine speed. And then we put the pipe on and did the same thing. And we picked up a lot. I remember it as being 600 or 700 RPM. So it was quite a bit. I got 16 miles per gallon in my 218, 224, 4.8 liter with 411 gears. Nice. 75 to 80 miles an hour. That's good for that speed if it's in a truck. I heard them 3/4 cans really make power. I don't know how much I'm not familiar with the 702 head. I don't know which head that is. And is it ported? Is it stock? What intake does it have on it? 274 cam on a 402, I'm thinking it's going to be sub 400 horsepower. Because a 454 with that kind of cam in it is like 425. But it does have less compression than. What's your recommendation on safe timing for supercharged Gen 2 LT1 making 10 pounds on 93? I don't know. I'm not the right guy to ask that. I don't think any drag racers are looking for massive low-end torque. They're not. The drag racer guys are not. That's not their thing. Low-end torque goes nice in driving and slow traffic, keeps acceleration. This is more for the vehicle that people use to get their drag race car to the track. Yeah, the AYYY, whatever that is. Yeah, the comment on the rockers was to you. Back in the day, I was sold the idea of a reverse split cam, only LS1, 6-speed, and an F body. It ran pretty good actually for roll racing. It just made less power than a cam that has more exhaust duration because a reverse split is not a good cam. If you run the Crowder lifters, I haven't. I'm not on any of the things I've run. I think that the guys at West Tech probably have, though. I just finished building my Gen 3 L33 5.3 with a TSP Chupacabra fast LSXRT intake manifold along with long tube headers. Can I expect my torque to go up or down? Up or down compared to what? Your peak horsepower and your peak torque compared to stock are going to both be way up. In fact, if you want to see what that combination will make, I have that video up there where we ran an L33 with a Chupacabra and an LSXR. It's the same as the LSXRT. It makes exactly the same power with long tube headers. So you can see exactly what that thing makes. That video is already up, as they say. I'm wanting to say that it's in the 450 range or something like that. Yeah, 442 and 423 foot-pounds. And that's a lot more than stock. Let's see. How many of us have timing sets that allow quick timing adjustments on the fly at the tracker on the dyno? Yeah, nobody does that. The only guys that do that are, and in fact, this is a recommendation that I made to Brian Tooley when they were talking about doing cam testing. I said, you need to get I think that they were talking about doing maybe Hemi or something. I said, you need to get a belt drive or forward cams or whatever. Get a belt drive. I said, because then you can do all your cam adjustments externally because it's got adjustments on it. Richard, what's your take on a Stroker 302, a GT40P head, a 108 lobe separation angle, 500 lift, 230 at 50? Yeah, GT40P head is not a great head. The cam is going to work okay, 230 on a 108. It's not going to idle very good, but maybe you're not going to care about that. I don't know what intake manifold you have on here, but that head compared to like an airflow research head is going to be like 50 horsepower or more. T50 is like a modern McLaren F1, except without the BMW engine. Oh, Gordon Murray design. That's one of his new things. I haven't looked at it. I like the newer McLarens. I think that they're cool, but I don't like them nearly as well as I like the F1. But I would, if I had McLaren F1 money, then I would have modified McLaren F1 money too. Mine would definitely have turbos on it. Because if I'm going to dream, I may as well, have modified dreams. Cam timing makes, in my experience being an engineer, I don't work for anyone though, cam timing makes less of a difference on MPG than engine architecture, mainly being bore size is bad, long stroke and lean is good. Those things that you mentioned obviously have an effect, but cam timing can definitely hurt cruise mile fuel economy. If you put a big camshaft in it, it's not going to run very good when you're cruising down the road at 2,000 RPM or less. Richard, I have a 1970 Chilton's manual that should have all that. I have a 70. I might have a 70 Camaro one too. I need to look up there now that you're. That's good. I'll have to check up there and see if that's has big block stuff in there. What's a good cam for torque on a 355 Chevy with Vortec heads? Take a look at the 246 cam, the Pure Energy one, and then the 228. And if you like one of either of those, like the Power Curve or whatever, they're definitely different. If you want something in between, there are cams in between those two. So that information has become hard to find, Richard, for the 396. What information? The tuning specs? I've not even really looked for it. .366 small block Ford Pro Charger AFR twisted. What's an AFR twisted wedge heads? What size cam? How much power do you want to make, and what Pro Charger do you have on it, and what RPM are you wanting to run it to? And are you drag racing it? Are you street driving it? Buick used a 3.8 in funny cars. I don't remember ever seeing one in a funny car. And I think that the Buick, that motor, they've done a lot more with than the 4.3 liter. I'm going to down to the 8 liter and try advancing retarding cam, see what it likes. Are you going to be doing that on the dyno or something? Stock and wine stealth intake manifold. Is that a little small block? What's the best Mopar small block for weekend drags? It depends on who you listen to. Some will tell you the 318. Others would tell you a bigger one, like a 340 or a 360. Or if you're 383, if you're C Dulcich, it might be a 383. I found that actively measuring engine power anything with a CVT to be extremely hard. Yeah. I did run I had a what was it? SCT or something like that. A 125 shifter cart that we ran on the chassis dyno. And that worked pretty well, but it was not a CVT though. It was a Dwayne. Manual trans. I've not tested Rhodes lifters, but I do want to. Crazy thing, a turbo 3.8 makes gobs of torque with short runners. It would make more with long runners. It's doing that with boost. Can we get vacuum numbers on the next cam test? Probably not. I probably won't do the I won't sit there and spend an hour or whatever doing the idle on all of them because I don't care about it. Carl, you shouldn't be worried about going below stoic on that. 15 to 1 or 15 and a half, as long as it's not misfiring, we'll be fine. Have you ever tried a progression ignition system? I have not. If you want to learn Pontiac performance and possibly information on the trophy 4-cylinder, you should talk to Butler Performance. I know those guys do good stuff. Right now, I don't have any questions about it. I think I have a pretty good idea of what we're going to do. Butler doesn't have any camshafts for the trophy 4-cylinder, unfortunately. And I wouldn't want to put any of the... I've looked at all of their stuff, and we've run some of their motors at Westech. That's the other thing that I need to change on the... I'm glad you guys brought that up. The head gaskets on the 396 need to be changed. Let's see here. Thanks for the time answering my questions, Rich. Longtime fan from down under. All the best for you and yours. Look up the VS Commodore Ute. Those are cool. That's what the 347 is going in. That's very cool. That's like it's kind of like an El Camino, right? Three cam, 11-to-1, calculated 210 aluminum heads, 650 lift. Oh, for the springs, I'm assuming. Car has 75 Corvette, 4-speed, 336 gears. I'm thinking it's going to be a 268 Chevrolet camshaft. Maybe something a little bigger. And what year is this? Is this a flat tappet cam? I'm assuming that it is. It's a 75. I don't know what year the motor is, but I'm assuming that it's a flat tappet cam. So we'll go with a hydraulic flat tappet. A 268 would be a 224, 230. That would drive really nice on a 383. But a 274 is kind of always my go-to thing. A 230, 236, it's 490. Although I would rather have more lift than that. I need to find something besides their Extreme Energy. Their Extreme Marines, maybe, or the you guys need some XFI profile or something. But these are all flat tappet ones. There we go. XFI cams, but with 1.6 rockers. That's why. But the 268 XFI is a 224, 231, 520, 515, but with a 1.6 rocker. It's that. Oh no, that's with the 1.5 rocker. Cool. Oh no, that's with the 1.6. Why are you guys advertising it like that? Or you could step up to the 280, which is a 236, 241. That's a pretty big step up. That's 12 degrees of intake duration and 10 degrees of exhaust duration. But you're stepping up to 550 lift and 547. That's not going to be as fun to drive around, but it's going to be a good bit faster. Yeah, that's kind of all I see on the flat tappet stuff, unless you go with a solid. Have you ever done it at a Mopar 413? No, they have a Westech, but I never have. Howard's cam. Does Howard's make a trophy 4-cylinder cam? It's kind of a weird cam, so somebody was giving me specs there or something. 30 degrees on the dwell. 35 gap. 19 on the point cap. 19. 4 degrees. Wow. Idle at 750. That's got to be the manual idle speed, right? I'm assuming. Thanks. That's cool. They don't show any lash. I'm sure that it's in the 20s. Stock heads and wine stealth 650 double pumper long tube headers 10-1 408 big block Chevy with extreme energy 274. Okay. 650 might be a little small on that, but probably not. Too bad you couldn't have done the CFM test on the 5.3 liter versus the 8.1. That would have been good. They were run at way different times, but it would have been good to have the information on both of them. When you guys do timing on the dyno, is it with ears, knock sensors, or just off of power numbers? Mean when we're adjusting it? We adjust it, we start low, and then we start adjusting up until it stops making power. And we also know where it's going to stop making power, having done LS motors for the last 30 years, and every time I do them, it stops making power at about the same timing level because that's what the chambers want. Unless we run a 317 or a big chamber thing. And sometimes it does. But like I said, I don't have a preconceived notion. The dyno tells us what the motor wants. The motor tells the dyno, and the dyno tells us, hey, look, it liked 25, it liked 27, it liked 29, it liked 31, whatever it is. Whatever the number is, that's why we run it cold also, because it will allow us to do that without hurting anything. And there's a level on the boosted stuff that we don't go beyond because we know what's safe. What happens to the modified engines you build? I heard on Power Block they would crush them. They crush their engines on Power Block? That's terrible. Old school said inline sixes had more torque than a similar size V8. I don't know. I would like to do that comparison actually. The problem is it's very hard to do. Like we could take the 300-inch inline six-cylinder Ford and then compare it to a 302 V8 Ford. But the problem is, how do you make everything the same? Like, how do you make the intake the same? How do you make the camshaft the same? How do you make the head flow the same? All that stuff. I don't think that that's going to be the case. I don't think the orientation of the motor dictates the power. I think that the other things do. One, primarily the displacement, and then other things, the efficiency of that displacement. Yep, like an El Camino, more like a 93 Chevy Impala boosted. I've seen them. They're a lot sportier than an El Camino. How do I know what size head gaskets I need for my Gen 3 53 LS? I'm getting some stuff from TSP like stock length push rods, valve springs, cam. I'm assuming stock size, but that's you need to ask them about the push rods and make sure that their camshaft has the same base circle as a stock cam. So then you will use the stock length push rod. Probably don't need to upgrade the push rod, quite honestly. But for head gaskets, you just need stock replacement head gaskets unless you're running boost, which will be like 53 thousandths thick. I never go with anything below the Naughty Cam. Haven't heard anything from Turbo Monts. I haven't heard anything from Dan either. .383 is newer 880 4-bolt hydraulic roller block. Oh, that's even better than hydraulic roller is going to be a better choice anyways. But it's going to be the same kind of offerings. just in hydraulic roller form. But the hydraulic roller stuff is going to have more lift. I take that back. They're kind of sissy lift on these things too, 510 and 520. But they probably have I think that they have an XFI version. Retrofit. They have retrofit versions. Ooh, 4-pattern cams. Don't do it. Mechanical rollers. You don't want any of that. No, I was hoping that they had some higher lift stuff, but I don't really see it. Unless you go up in duration a lot. Yeah. An extreme energy 270 or a 276. I've had mid-roll ads twice tonight. It's the first time I get any here. Admiral, what's going on with your Mustang? Advance is 0 degrees at 900, 9 at 1250, 17 at 2000. Oh, that's cool stuff, man. Nine degrees at 1250, 17 at 2000, 32 at 5000. Cool. How about modern fuel injection versus a Holley carburetor? They both work good. The question would have to be what intake manifold they're using. Can I use a BTR hot rod cam in my L59 stock bottom end? We ran them in the L33. For your head gasket, we run the Felpro stuff, or I have run also the stock LS9 stuff. But Brian Tooley also has, and probably Texas Speed has head gaskets. Me and Andrew at Mustang Lifestyle are changing my built 96 Cobra 76mm turbo car with meth over to Holley. So you're changing it over to a Holley blow-through carburetor, or changing over to Holley EFI? Richard, what's a primer to start building Honda performance? I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you mean by primer. 24 and 28 lash. Cool, man. I have to look and see if maybe I clicked a box that I wasn't supposed to. Where's a good place to start? Any B16 equipped car, or actually any single cam, any D16 is good too. I like hatches myself, but they're all good. One more minute. closed out our poll at 60%, saying yes, that you can increase the power with advancing the countdown ring. Big gas force cylinder Merc Cruiser, the Ford. Yeah, I saw those. That's the 3700. Preludes are good. Preludes are always the expensive ones, though, much more than Civics. So if you haven't, go take a look at the video that's up that I put up today and try to keep that going. On the little on why you can't have torque. Sorry to ruin everybody's night. You can't have low speed torque from a camshaft. We can from other things, which is good. But I will see you guys all tomorrow.